Linear? Even today, scientists still can't figure out how to read the ancient language of the Minoans, even after trying for hundreds of years. If they ever do crack the code, it could change everything we know about history. This language has an incredibly simple name, Linear A. The Minoans, named after the legendary king, Minos, once lived on the island of Crete during the Bronze Age. They started out as a simple, Neolithic culture more than 5,000 years ago and slowly grew into a complex city-based society. By around 2000 BC, the Minoans had reached their peak of wealth and power. After 1450 BC, they started mixing with the Mycenaeans from mainland Greece, and this blending eventually led to their decline. The two cultures slowly merged until the Minoans were no longer a separate people from the Mycenaeans. Then, disaster hit around 1200 BC. The whole Bronze Age civilization fell apart. Crete was attacked and destroyed, coastal towns were left empty, and palaces crumbled to ruins. Scientists have no clear answer for what happened, and they would know if only they could read Linear A. There are more than 1,400 Linear A writings that remain a mystery. The whole story of the Minoans is written on those clay tablets, from their beginnings to their end. Until this language is understood, the Minoan civilization will stay a deep puzzle. What makes this even more annoying is that Linear B, the language of the Mycenaeans, has been understood since the 1950s. Linear A was used on Crete, while Linear B was used on the mainland. When the two cultures came together after 1450 BC, Linear A disappeared and was replaced by Linear B. It's clear that there's a link between the two languages. Yet, scientists haven't found it. They keep studying the strange symbols pressed into the Minoan clay tablets. These characters are truly puzzling, which makes figuring them out almost impossible. The giant in the cave. In 2002, during Operation Enduring Freedom in the faraway mountains of Afghanistan, a top US Special Forces team was said to have killed a huge creature. Their first job was to hunt down Taliban fighters in the Kandahar area. But what happened went far beyond anything they had planned for. While walking through the rough highlands, the soldiers came across a strange cave, hidden in the rocky desert. From inside, a terrible smell like rotting meat drifted out, making the whole team stop. They chose to go in, hoping to find where the awful odor was coming from. But what was waiting for them in the dark was not human. Based on the story, the creature that attacked them was about 13 feet tall with bright red hair, 6 fingers on each hand, and 2 rows of teeth like daggers. It carried a huge spear, charged into the fight, and killed several soldiers before it was finally taken down by a hail of bullets from those still alive. After the beast was killed, its body was immediately flown away by a military helicopter. From that day on, the remains were never seen again. Stories keep going that its body is locked away deep inside an underground military base, cut off completely from the outside world. However, the US Department of Defense has officially said the whole thing never happened. They insist there is no record of any Special Forces soldier ever being killed by a giant in Kandahar. According to the military, the event never took place. Still, for many, the story of the giant in the cave remains caught somewhere between truth and myth. Marid Castel. Rising out of the dusty desert more than 500 meters above sea level stands the tall Marad Castle. It's located in the old town of Dumat al-Jandal in northwestern Saudi Arabia. It looks like a huge sand castle, forgotten by time, even though it seems like something shaped from a child's play. Marad is believed to have been built around the 200s, just before Queen Zenobia of Palmyra started her invasion. Old records say that about 1,700 years ago, Dumat al-Jandal rose up against Zenobia's rule. The queen marched her army to stop the rebellion but was met by Merid's strong walls, which she could not break through. At that time, Zenobia had taken over most of the Eastern Roman Empire, even adding Egypt and Anatolia to her lands. Yet, at Merad, her progress came to a sudden stop. Eventually, Zenobia named her son emperor in the year 272, only to be quickly defeated by Rome, captured, and taken to the city, where she lived the rest of her life as a prisoner. Merat kept serving as an important military post during the Islamic period of the 600s, before it was left empty and fell into ruin. The ghost ship in the Namibian desert. In 2009, along Namibia's coast, where the desert meets the ocean, diamond miners found a shipwreck buried for 500 years. Inside was treasure worth $113 million in gold. The ship was found while the De Beers Company was building a seawall for mining work. When the water was pumped out, the wreck and its treasure were uncovered. The gold coins alone were worth $13 million at the time of discovery. Researchers think this was the bomb Giza, which sank around 1533 while carrying 44,000 pounds of copper, gold, and ivory on its way to India. Gebel el-Haredi. Gebel el-Haredi is one of the most mysterious archaeological sites in Egypt's Sohag region. From the 6th dynasty of the Old Kingdom to the late Roman era and even the Coptic period, traces of different civilizations are still carved into this land. The Sohag area has been lived in since around 2700 BC, with people staying for 5,000 years. In a recent dig, researchers uncovered a puzzling mud brick tower believed to have been built to watch over the Nile River and the main road leading into the area. It's thought that this tower once served as a lookout post, where guards kept constant watch, collected taxes from travelers, and wrote down the names of those coming into their land. The structure dates back to the rule of Ptolemy III, between 246 and 222 BC. Archaeologists also found a beautiful temple dedicated to the goddess Isis, the goddess linked to the raising of Osiris and the birth of Horus. More than 85 tombs were found carved deep into the mountainside, filled with countless mummies and burials hidden under the earth. Sohag still holds many secrets waiting to be uncovered, and what has been found so far is just the tip of the iceberg. Taprom Temple. Among the ruins of Angkor in Cambodia lies an old temple called Taprom, where the jungle has slowly taken over the structure over hundreds of years. Huge tree roots snake across the stone walls like giant brown serpents, destroying and hugging the walkways. Most of the walls have fallen down, leaving only piles of rubble. What makes Taprom especially puzzling is an unusual carving. Among the familiar flower patterns and animal pictures made by the Khmer Empire 800 years ago, there is a picture that looks exactly like a Stegosaurus, a dinosaur thought to have died out 66 million years ago. This makes no sense, as the Khmer people knew nothing about studying ancient life. The Stegosaurus carving sits among pictures of deer, water buffalo, parrots, and monkeys, all arranged in the same circular pattern. Could it be that the Khmer once found a complete skeleton? Or maybe they saw a surviving group of dinosaurs in Cambodia? If so, what happened to them? No one knows the answer. Some guess that the last of these creatures might have been killed off when the Siamese army destroyed Angkor in 1431. The City of Bones. In 2011, archaeologists uncovered a horrifying scene at the old village of Haminmangha in northeastern China. 97 bodies were crowded inside a single house. This site dates back to around 3000 BC, making it over 5,000 years old. The dead ranged in age from 19 to 35, and all were buried quickly, as if struck by a sudden disaster. Since then, researchers have struggled with one haunting question: what happened here? Why were nearly 100 people left abandoned in the same house? Did they die from a natural disaster, or were they trapped in an unstoppable fire? The possibility of a fire is seen as unlikely. There are also no signs that they were killed by an invading army. If this had been a Stone Age slaughter, the bodies probably would not have been buried, even carelessly. Instead, the most likely theory is that they died from a disease. Many scientists think the culprit was Yersinia pestis, the bacteria responsible for the Black Death that destroyed Europe thousands of years later. While there is no solid proof linking the plague to this site, other archaeological clues suggest the Black Death appeared in Europe as early as the Stone Age, meaning it could very well have hit China at the same time. One notable theory points to rats, the carriers of the plague, being attracted to these new settlements. These early communities were among the first in China to raise animals and farm. Living close to livestock allowed diseases to spread easily, while stored food drew rats in. This created a deadly mix born from human progress. The house filled with bodies stands as a grim reminder of one of humanity's first tragedies, where prehistoric people unknowingly brought death while trying to build a more advanced society. Gallimimus was an unusual dinosaur that lived during the late Cretaceous period, eating both plants and meat. It was one of the earliest omnivores belonging to the theropod group, walking on two legs and measuring up to 6 meters long, only about 10 feet shorter than the fearsome Gorgosaurus. Unlike its fierce relatives, Gallimimus had long arms with flexible fingers that let it catch small prey. It also had a sharp beak, which it used to strike at its victims. This ability to adapt helped Gallimimus thrive in tough environments where many other dinosaurs struggled. The first fossil was found in 1970 in Mongolia's Gobi Desert. Its name means chicken mimic because researchers thought it looked like a giant chicken, though it weighed up to 4 tons and lived 70 million years ago. To this day, debate continues over whether Gallimimus was strictly meat-eating or truly an omnivore. Some scientists think it used its claws to dig for roots, while others argue it mainly hunted small animals. Either way, Gallimimus was one of the fastest-running dinosaurs, with an estimated speed reaching 35 miles per hour. The mysterious sphere of the Betz family. In 1974, deep in the wild forests of Fort George Island, Florida, a strange discovery took place. While exploring the area around their home, the Betz family stumbled upon a small, perfectly round metal object that looked very much like a bowling ball. However, when placed on a scale, it turned out to be far heavier than any ball used by pro athletes. The sphere was oddly dense, as if made from some unknown metal. At first, the Betz family assumed it was just an old cannonball left from the Spanish colonial era, a relic buried in the forest for centuries. But after bringing it home and cleaning off the dirt, they were shocked to realize this object was something completely different. Its surface shined without a single trace of rust, showing no signs of ever having been fired from a cannon or decayed after centuries in the wild. The real weirdness began when the sphere started making odd noises. It vibrated with such strong frequencies that the family feared it might explode at any moment. Their dog became terrified whenever it was near the object. Even more bizarre, the sphere could move on its own, rolling through the house as if guided by some unseen force. The strange events quickly caught the attention of officials. The object was handed over to the US military for study. However, representatives from the Naval Air Station in Jacksonville admitted to the St. Petersburg Times that they could not X-ray the sphere because its steel shell was too thick for any machine to see through. They confirmed that it came from Earth, contained no explosives, and had no link to alien technology. While they could not figure out who had made it, they rejected any claims of it being from outer space. To this day, the mystery of the Betz sphere remains unsolved. Some think it's a doomsday device left by aliens, while others believe it was a piece of a metal satellite that fell from orbit. Despite many theories, most experts still see it as nothing more than an oversized stainless steel ball, an ordinary object wrapped in an air of mystery, the treasure in the trenches. During the brutal years of World War I, amid non-stop trench warfare, soldiers unexpectedly uncovered an ancient Greek treasure while digging through the battlefields. Trench warfare at the time was fought under harsh conditions, with fighting spreading from one rough pit to another, turning much of Western Europe into a huge network of tunnels. Constant digging accidentally brought ancient relics back into the light. Yet, during that time, archaeology was not a priority. Treasures, ancient history, and forgotten sites got little attention. Only after the war ended and Howard Carter found Tutankhamun's tomb did a passion for archaeology begin to grow worldwide. Even so, many artifacts were found during the war. In Greece, soldiers digging trenches in various cities uncovered the remains of settlements and cemeteries dating back nearly 3,000 years. They found bronze and gold jewelry, the graves of mysterious women, and the skeletons of prehistoric warriors. From 1918 to 1925, British and French archaeologists worked to gather these treasures, many of which were sent to European museums. Recently, the Kilkis Antiquities Authority in Greece organized an exhibit to showcase these amazing artifacts once found in the deadly trenches. All roads lead to the sea. On the remote island of Maldan, in the Pacific Ocean, every road seems to lead into the sea. This tiny island, covering only 15 square miles, hides a secret the world may not yet be ready to accept. Today, Maldan Island is completely empty of people. Only the occasional visitor passes through while crossing the Pacific. The island is strictly protected as a breeding ground for dozens of bird species. But in the past, it was home to people. The island is covered with ruins from an unknown civilization. It's hard to believe that anyone ever lived here, where not a single drop of fresh water exists. The land rises no more than 10 meters above sea level, meaning one strong wave could have wiped everything away. In 1825, Lieutenant Charles Robert Malden discovered the island while aboard the HMS Blonde. Along with a naturalist, he explored and found crumbling temples and puzzling megalithic structures. During the 1800s, instead of studying the ruins, people mined bird droppings here for 70 years. It wasn't until the 1930s that a team from the Bishop Museum in Honolulu examined the remains. Anthropologist Kenneth Emery suggested that the temples were built by a small group of Polynesians who lived on the island for several generations before moving on, possibly to Tahiti or Hawaii. Although this theory is plausible, it does not tell the whole story. It's possible that long before the Polynesians, a much older civilization once thrived on Malden Island, leaving behind traces that still puzzle humanity. All roads lead to the sea. Part 2. On Malden Island, archaeologists identified 21 sites, an amazing number for such a small place. The island holds temple foundations, tombs, and houses. Kenneth Emery thought no more than 200 people ever lived there. Yet, they built an entire network of roads spreading out from the island's center. These roads were paved with huge basalt slabs, fitted together perfectly like puzzle pieces. The strangest part is that they lead nowhere logical. Some start at ruined temples, others connect temples together, but most cross the island, reach the shore, and disappear beneath the waves. Scattered across the island are strange stone mounds, looking like small pyramids. And this isn't the only place in the Pacific where such mysteries exist. 1,000 miles away on Rarotonga Island, there is a paved road leading into the ocean. On Pohnpei Island, 3,400 miles away, small pyramids are linked by old pathways. Researcher Mitch Williamson suggests that the culture behind these roads may be at least 50,000 years old. He thinks the entire Pacific was once a huge continent, home to a thriving civilization. When the continent sank, its network of roads was destroyed, leaving only pieces scattered across small islands. After bird-dropping mining ended in the 1930s, Malden was abandoned until 1956 when the British used it to test hydrogen bombs. They nearly destroyed the island. Today, Malden is so remote that almost no research takes place there. Yet, it may hold evidence of a pre-flood civilization if only someone would fund an expedition to explore its underwater secrets. The Agora of Athens. The Agora of Athens once served as a gathering place for free citizens from the 500s to the 300s BC. It was one of the most important public spaces in the Mediterranean, originally used to announce military orders and public decrees. Over time, the Agora became the heart of Athenian life, where everyone from regular citizens to leaders discussed city affairs. The first democratic groups emerged here, shaping the very idea of democracy. Famous philosophers walked these grounds, debating the big questions of the universe. The Panathenaic Way ran through the Agora, connecting the city to the Dipulan Gate. While many ancient cities had Agora, Athens stood out as the birthplace of democracy. It was home to the famous temple of Hephaestus and shrines to Zeus, Apollo, Ares, and Athena. Fountains, statues, and tall columns provided shade for those strolling through. It was here that ancient Athens laid the foundations for the world we know today. Islands National Heritage Park. Islands National Heritage Park takes visitors on a journey back in time, not only recreating the country's history, but also opening a window into the Mesolithic era. The site features 16 reconstructed models, beginning with 2 structures dating back to 7000 BC. Small thatched huts with wooden frames, typical homes of islands hunter-gatherers, 9,000 years ago. There is also a Neolithic longhouse built about 6,000 years ago, marking the period when people moved inland from the coast, began farming, and domesticated animals. This was also when the Irish started building megalithic monuments. Today, more than 1,000 such stone structures are scattered across Ireland, including the Ballakil Portal Tomb and the Drombeg Stone Circle in County Cork, all recreated in the park. Although the park opened only in 1987, it covers 40 acres that were once a farm port active for 1,000 years. It perfectly recreates a Neolithic village, just as it would have existed 1,500 years ago. Tuzigut. Tuzigut, located in Arizona, was once home to nomadic Native American groups about 1,600 years ago. Among them were the Sinagra people, a pre-Columbian culture that thrived around Flagstaff, controlling a huge territory from the Little Colorado River to the Verde River and the San Francisco Peaks. One of the few remaining structures of their civilization is Tuzugut, first dug up in 1933 by Edward Spicer and Louis K. Wood. It became one of Arizona's first archaeological sites open to the public. A museum and visitor center were later built, and in 1939, President Roosevelt declared Tuzagot a U.S. national monument, built around 1125 AD on a ridge rising 120 feet above the Verde River plain. Tuzagot was a huge stone complex of more than 110 rooms, many of which had no doors and could only be entered through holes in the roof. This was one of the last great structures of the Sinagua. After several phases of growth, they left the area in the 1400s and never returned. The White City, a legend in the Honduran jungle. Deep in the jungles of Honduras lies a forgotten city known as the White City. The Spanish claim to have seen it centuries ago, and later European explorers confirmed its existence. According to old accounts, the city was built to honor a mysterious monkey god worshipped by an unnamed civilization, with dazzling white stone structures. For the past century, archaeologists have searched for the White City, comparing it to El Dorado or Atlantis. Not until 2015 did a team of scientists venture deep into the Mosquitia region, one of Honduras's most dangerous areas, and uncover its ruins. Using satellite images and laser scanning technology, they found evidence of an ancient city dating back 1,000 years. However, the area's dangers from smugglers and illegal loggers have made further research difficult. The expedition uncovered plazas, monuments, and even a pyramid. Oscar Castro from the Honduran Institute of Anthropology and History confirmed the city dates back at least to the year 1000. Still, the team had little time to do thorough surveys. The city was clearly once magnificent. But a pressing question remains. Was this the legendary White City, where a mysterious culture worshipped the monkey god? Since then, no one has returned, and the ruins are slowly being taken back by the jungle. The Aztec floating gardens in Mexico City. Archaeologists have recently uncovered the remains of a puzzling Aztec house, more than 800 years old, built during the final days of the Aztec Empire. The site, located in the Centro district, was found when workers were updating the area to install an electrical substation. The house once stretched across more than 13,000 square feet, built between 1200 and 1521. Right on the boundary between two major neighborhoods of ancient Tenochtitlan. Strangely, 800 years ago this area was full of canals and lush nature, a sharp contrast to today's city landscape. Archaeologists found a dock where boats once unloaded goods. The house had its own pier, proving it sat right on the edge of a lake or city canal. Beneath the floor, they found burial urns, the remains of many infants, tools, and a huge stone statue. After the Spanish conquest, the house of this Aztec nobleman was turned into public baths. Evidence of this includes pieces of tiles, pipes, drainage systems, concrete slabs, and European building materials found at the site. From a fancy mansion, the place was reduced to a public bath under Spanish rule. The Boni ruins, scattered among the hills of Mpumalanga province, South Africa, lie the remains known as the Bana ruins, believed to be what is left of an ancient settlement supposedly built by the Bano people in the 1500s. If this theory is correct, they are only about 500 years old. However, some historians argue they are far older, with bold claims suggesting the ruins could date back as far as 200,000 years. The gap between these estimates is huge, and to this day no one has figured out their true age. Today all that remains are crumbling stone walls forming a rough maze. Professor Peter Delius of the University of Witwatersrand thinks the Bana people once practiced advanced farming and had sophisticated technology, changing the landscape to manage livestock and improve farming through irrigation across the grasslands. Even so, the exact time when they reached these advances remains unknown. The theory of a 200,000-year-old origin seems unlikely, as it would mean that Stone Age humans built huge structures while the rest of the world still lived in caves in primitive conditions. The Bana ruins remain a mystery. No one knows when they were built, why they were built, or whether they were part of a lost city in South Africa. Researchers think that if the site is protected and developed for tourism, it could not only save the ruins, but also bring economic benefits to the local community. The Ness inscription, a message from an ancient faith, at Nesscliffe Hill Fort in England. A puzzling inscription carved into a slab of red sandstone has puzzled archaeologists so much that they turned to the public for help. The fort itself dates back to the Iron Age, around 500 BC. The Nes carving looks circular with an antlered creature holding an unknown object at its center. Although heavily worn by weather, the image gives an unsettling feeling, as if it shows some dark power. The fort was once occupied by an unknown tribe before the Romans took control of the area in the Ceratus S. While no clear explanation has been found, some archaeologists, including Paul Riley, believed the carving represents a mysterious horned god, perhaps linked to an old cult, prehistoric mystery, who made the first stone tools. For a long time, scientists thought that only species within the Homo genus were capable of making complex tools. However, a discovery in Kenya has challenged this belief. Stone tools dating back 3 million years suggest that another species may have invented this technology long before our human ancestors. The artifacts were found at what was once an animal butchering and plant processing site, now known as the Old Down Toolkit, a key milestone in human evolution. This marks the first appearance of standardized tools, with some stones specifically shaped for cutting meat and others for processing plants. Even more surprising, alongside the tools, scientists found molar teeth belonging to a hominin species called Paranthropus. This finding raises the question: was it Paranthropus, not Homo, that first developed stone tool technology? Professor Rick Potts of the Smithsonian National Museum of Natural History calls this a fascinating prehistoric puzzle. Additionally, researchers discovered 3 butchered hippo remains at the site, proving that hominins were hunting large animals as far back as 3 million years ago. This suggests that our ancestors and other hominin species may have caused more extinctions than previously thought. The ancient city of Baalbek. Few people know about Baalbek, but they should. Located in Lebanon, 3,000 feet above sea level in the Bekaa Valley, Baalbek was known as Hierapolis during Roman times. However, its history goes back much further, to 7000 BC, according to evidence uncovered by a German archaeological team in 1898. Before speaking of the stones, one must mention the god after whom the city is named, Baal. This name once inspired fear, and not without reason. Baal was one of the gods condemned in the Bible. But what scripture does not say is that Baal was originally a sky god equivalent to Zeus in Greek mythology. According to old Phoenician legend, when Baal came down from the heavens to the mortal world, Baalbek was the very place where he set foot. Some have taken this legend literally, suggesting Baal was not a god, but an alien being. They think Baalbek was built as a landing platform, so this sky god or visitor from the stars could freely come and go. In essence, the ancient Phoenicians may have seen beings so powerful that they mistook them for gods. As servants of these divine figures, they built a huge stone platform for Baal or an otherworldly traveler to land his craft. Many think physical evidence still supports this claim. Ramsechu, the bridge of myth and stone. Ramsechu, also known as Adam's Bridge, is a real place, wrapped in countless mysteries. These are the remains of a narrow land bridge that once connected India to Sri Lanka. Only a few thousand years ago, people could walk from the southern tip of India across this bridge to reach northern Sri Lanka. Geologists insist it is just a submerged sand and rock formation, a natural thing with nothing mythical about it. They claim Ramsechu has no links to legend, being no different from other landforms worldwide. But is that really the case? The bridge stretches over 30 miles, most of it under just a few feet of water. Strikingly, no thorough study has ever been done here. Scientists can guess, but there is not enough proof to confirm whether this structure is completely natural or man-made. Some geologists note that the rocks in the middle of the bridge are around 7,000 years old, while the sand at both ends is only about 4,000 years old. This suggests that the stones may have been brought from elsewhere, meaning the bridge might have been deliberately built. In Hindu mythology, Ramsechu is the bridge built by the god Rama, with the help of the monkey god Hanuman and his army to cross the sea and rescue his kidnapped wife. Sita. Local records claim the bridge remained walkable until the 1400s. In 1480, a huge storm washed away the last parts, sinking the whole structure. The Valley of Diamonds. Sinbad the Sailor is one of history's most famous adventurers. Tales of his exploits began spreading in the Islamic world around the same time England was telling stories of King Arthur. According to legend, Sinbad was from the area near Baghdad during the 700s under the Abbasid Caliphate. He set out on 7 voyages across the African and Asian seas, facing mythical creatures and strange monsters. Most scholars think Sinbad was a made-up character, but this is just guesswork. No one can say for sure whether the hero of 1001 Nights, the friend of Ali Baba and Aladdin, ever really walked the earth. In one of his most famous adventures, Sinbad became stuck on a deserted island. There, he fought giant birds, battled huge snakes, and stumbled upon a valley overflowing with diamonds. At the bottom of this valley, the gems shone so brightly that Sinbad could have bought an entire fleet of ships. Many have guessed that the Valley of Diamonds may have been a real place, perhaps located in India, where the first diamonds were found in riverbeds thousands of years ago. Idandra Hill, the hidden village among the sky rocks. Idandra Hill is an almost invisible village in Ondo State, Nigeria. One look at the photos is enough to make one doubt it belongs to Africa at all. The landscape is stunningly otherworldly, as if taken from a legend, with giant rocks rising above lush green meadows. The village sits nestled among the Idandra rock formations. Huge rock outcrops formed more than 500 million years ago, towering like smooth mountains disappearing into the clouds. Its history is equally mysterious. The Idandra people lived hidden among rocks, mist, and grassy valleys for thousands of years, completely cut off from the outside world. They had no contact with Western civilization until the 1800s. The Yoruba inhabitants of Idandra worshipped gods linked to the giant stones until Christian missionaries arrived in 1894, wiping out the old beliefs. Although most villagers today follow Christianity, they still keep certain old traditions as part of their cultural memory. The mystery of the megaliths. The ancient city of Baalbek was built on a huge stone platform, so massive it seems to serve only one purpose: as a landing site for craft from the sky. When experts fail to explain why the platform exists, countless theories arise. What makes this place even stranger are the stones themselves. Some at Baalbek are so huge they defy logic. More than 60 feet long, 14 feet wide, and 14 feet thick, weighing up to 1,500 tons. How they were cut and moved has baffled scientists for decades. In most ancient structures worldwide, building blocks rarely weigh more than 2 or 3 tons. Even the Romans, with their advanced technology, typically cut stones weighing only about 3 tons for their buildings. Imagine moving a 3-ton block with only ropes and muscle power. That alone is a marvel. Yet the stones at Baalbek weigh 500 times as much. The more experts study, the deeper the mystery becomes. One of the most puzzling facts is that this huge platform is not mentioned in any Greek or Roman texts. Despite being the only structure of its kind in the world, the Greeks and Romans carefully recorded everything. Yet, they said nothing about Baalbek. A silence filled with questions. Over thousands of years, Baalbek became home to many civilizations before it became the city dedicated to the god Baal. It was used by the Egyptians as a religious center for the worship of Ra. Biblical archaeologists have also linked Baalbek to the city of Balath, mentioned in the book of Joshua. Balath is described as lying in the valley of Lebanon beneath Mount Hermon. The text says that Joshua captured the entire land, including Bolath, seizing their kings and killing them all. The Great Stupa. The Great Stupa at Sanchi is one of the most magnificent stupas in the Buddhist world. A name that truly fits its grandeur. But what exactly is a stupa? Most people know only that it is a religious monument, without understanding much beyond that. The word stupa comes from Sanskrit, meaning heap of earth, reflecting the structure's earliest form, a simple burial mound. Ancient Buddhists turned this idea into a more durable stone structure. The earliest stupas were just stone-covered mounds that contained a piece of the Buddha's remains. Early builders shaped these mounds into circular forms, then strengthened them with stone to make them last. Over time, the stupa became a sacred place of worship. The legend goes back to the period after the Buddha's death, and to Emperor Ashoka, who ruled most of the Indian subcontinent from 268 to 232 BC. According to tradition, Ashoka built as many as 84,000 stupas across the land, dividing the Buddha's relics among them. While historians doubt the accuracy of this number, the Great Stupa remains an amazing masterpiece, rising 54 feet high and spanning 120 feet across. This monument was built in the birthplace of Queen Devi, the daughter of a merchant from the small village of Sanchai. The stupa not only honors the Buddha, but also stands as a tribute from the emperor to his beloved wife. At its heart, the sacred relics of the Buddha are believed to remain enshrined. The project was so important that Ashoka himself personally oversaw its building. The Ishtar Gate. The Ishtar Gate was built in 575 BC by the famous king Nebuchadnezzar II of Babylon. It was one of 8 gateways leading into the ancient city of Babylon, located in what is now Iraq. Although it was the 8th gate, it quickly became the city's main entrance. This structure was part of the king's grand plan to turn Babylon into a dazzling jewel of the ancient world. His vision also included restoring the temple of the god Marduk and creating the Hanging Gardens of Babylon, one of history's most famous wonders. The Ishtar Gate's splendor once earned it a place among the 7 wonders of the ancient world, before it was later replaced by the Lighthouse of Alexandria. While the lighthouse has vanished completely, pieces of the Ishtar Gate still survive today. When it was dug up in 1902, archaeologists uncovered a 45-foot section of the original structure. Although its full size remains uncertain, experts estimate the gate once stood over 50 feet tall and 100 feet wide. Made of shiny blue bricks, the Ishtar Gate shimmered like a giant jewel decorated with pictures of lions, bulls, and dragons, all dedicated to the goddess Ishtar, goddess of love, war, and fertility. Valhalla, the legendary hall of the Vikings. One unique belief made medieval Viking warriors so fearsome, their faith in Valhalla. In Norse mythology, Valhalla was known as the Hall of Fallen Warriors. They thought that those who died bravely on the battlefield would have their souls carried by Valkyrie warrior maidens to the sacred hall where the greatest heroes of the past gathered. According to legend, when the end of the world, Ragnarok, arrived, the immortal warriors of Valhalla would rise again to fight against the forces of chaos. But was Valhalla a real place? The answer is not simple. Some scholars argue that the Old Norse word Valhall originally did not mean hall, but rock. Its earliest meaning may have been the Rock of the Fallen. In the early stages of Norse mythology, this was seen as an eternal battlefield where souls kept fighting beneath the shadow of sacred stones. Over time, the Rock of the Dead slowly grew into the Hall of Warriors. Some theories suggest Valhalla came from a huge battle in the Nordic mountains where blood once stained the stones red, leaving a lasting mark on folk memory. Ancient Carthage. There was a time when Carthage was the largest, wealthiest, and most powerful city-state in the entire Mediterranean. Originally called Carthage by the Phoenicians, Karkadan by the Greeks, and later Carthago by the Romans, it became a mighty empire that rivaled Rome itself. Ironically, most of what humanity knows about Carthage today comes from the very empire that destroyed it, Rome, from 264 to 146 BC. Rome launched 3 wars against Carthage, ending with the city's total destruction. Its ruins now lie near modern Tunis in North Africa. Legend says, Carthage was founded in 814 BC by Queen Dido of the Phoenicians. 500 years later, the city thrived, as refugees fled from Alexander the Great's conquests in 332 BC. Carthage grew into an empire, with colonies stretching to Sicily and Spain. Its history is as complex and mysterious as Rome's, spanning 5 distinct eras. The early Carthaginian period, Roman control until 439 AD, Vandal rule until 534, Byzantine rule until 698, and finally the Islamic Arab conquest lasting until 1270. After that, Carthage's power truly ended, though people kept living there. The ancient ruins stayed forgotten until modern archaeologists began digging at the site in the 1830 as Valiant Thor. On March 16, 1957, a strange event was said to have taken place in Alexandria, Virginia. A being from Venus, calling himself Valiant Thor, was reported to have landed on Earth. Right after appearing, he asked to meet the President of the United States, Dwight Eisenhower. What shocked witnesses was that this being did not look like a scary alien. Instead, he appeared as a tall human man who stepped out of his spacecraft in a field. Soon after, Valiant Thor was taken straight to the Pentagon. The mysterious man claimed to be an ambassador from his world, arriving on Earth with the mission to help humanity. He was said to have amazing abilities, the power to rearrange his body at the molecular level, a skill like teleportation. Most notably, he had 6 fingers on each hand like the Kandahar giant, and instead of blood, copper oxide flowed through his veins. But how much of this incredible story is true? Unfortunately, no one can confirm. It is said that video of the alien craft once existed, but it has never been found. Photos supposedly taken at the Pentagon in 1957 when Thor was reportedly there, only show an unknown man, nothing more. Guilo, the city buried in lava. On the shores of Lake Tequesquitango in Mexico, lie the remains of an ancient city known as Guilo. This city rose nearly 3,000 years ago around 800 BC. Serving as a major ceremonial and trade center for the region. About 20,000 people once lived here, building pyramids, large plazas, temple foundations, and huge structures typical of a powerful Mesoamerican civilization. Its economy thrived on farming, fed by the fertile lands of the Mexican Valley. But the people of Guilo failed to realize they had built their city next to a massive volcano. Around 100 AD, As the pre-classic period drew to a close, the Zytel volcano erupted violently. Lava flowed across Quilo, burying everything under a layer of molten rock. The city was left right away. Survivors fled to larger centers, such as Teotihuacan and Cuicuilco. The culture of Gilo later merged into that of the Teotihuacan civilization, where the refugees helped build a new power that lasted 500 years. Gorgosaurus, North America's fierce predator. 75 million years ago, Gorgosaurus roamed the plains of North America. Its name from Greek means dreadful lizard. But even that fails to capture its true ferocity. Gorgosaurus measured about 9 meters in length, weighing over 3 tons, with jagged teeth capable of tearing prey apart. Although it had small arms, it remained a top predator at the top of the food chain during the late Cretaceous. Fossils of Gorgosaurus have been found widely in Canada, suggesting they may have hunted in packs. For the plant-eaters of that time, facing a group of Gorgosaurus was a true nightmare. The fortress that changed history. Archaeologists have just uncovered what may be the world's oldest fortress, dating back 8,000 years. It stands alone in the freezing Siberian wilderness, where few would expect such a huge ancient structure to exist. Go back to 6000 BC, when a group of hunter-gatherers built an unheard-of defensive stronghold. Placed on top of a hill surrounded by rivers and dense forests, it was a perfect spot to fight off any threat. The fortress walls were made of wooden posts reinforced with earth, forming a solid barrier. Inside, archaeologists found traces of houses, fire pits, and tools, showing it was home to a small but well-organized community. What makes this discovery groundbreaking is its age. The idea of building a protected settlement during the hunter-gatherer era is amazing, coming before all known forms of defensive construction by thousands of years. It proves that people of that time understood the importance of planned defense and control of land. Some researchers think the fortress was not only for protection, but also a sign of power. Its builders may have been showing their control over the surrounding land, laying the groundwork for future societies. The Siberian fortress raises more questions than it answers. Why was it built in such a remote place? Who were the people that built it, and what threats were they facing? Could this be proof of an advanced culture that humanity has yet to fully understand? The sea monster, terror of the ancient oceans. In Chile, scientists have found the remains of one of the largest ocean predators to have ever existed. The fossil of this prehistoric beast was discovered in the middle of the Atacama Desert, one of the driest places on Earth. Today the Atacama is barren, covered in dust and rock, but millions of years ago it lay beneath the Pacific Ocean. This allowed scientists to uncover many fossils of ancient ocean reptiles. The extinct creature is a pliosaur, a top predator with a bite stronger than that of the Tyrannosaurus rex. Around 160 million years ago, pliosaurs ruled these waters. Archaeologists found parts of its jaw, a toothpiece, and several limb bones. Rodrigo Otero from the University of Chile explained that the pliosaur looked like modern killer whales, with a huge skull, enormous teeth to tear apart prey, and limbs that worked as powerful flippers. He stressed that the Atacama Desert is a fossil treasure chest, possibly hiding thousands if not millions of animal remains beneath its surface. Thonis Heracleion. Before Alexandria rose to power, Thonis Heracleion was one of ancient Egypt's most important seaports. Located near the Nile's mouth, opening into the Mediterranean, the city served as a gateway connecting Egypt with the Western world. The Egyptians called it Thonis, while the Greeks named it Heracleion, in honor of the hero Heracles, whom they thought had once set foot there. Thonis Heracleion was also home to a beautiful temple dedicated to the god Ammon, where pharaohs performed crowning ceremonies before traveling to Memphis. However, around the 100s BC, the city suddenly disappeared. Generations of scholars thought it was destroyed by a natural disaster or slowly declined as other ports rose to prominence. For over 1,000 years, its exact location stayed a mystery. It was not until the early 2000s that French explorer Franck Cardiot and his archaeology team used sonar technology to explore the waters of Abukir. There they found ruins buried under layers of silt, including statues, inscriptions, and entire structures preserved underwater. Today, Thonis Heracleion is considered one of the greatest underwater archaeological finds in human history. A city frozen in time, lying silently on the ocean floor. Petra, the Rose City carved in stone. Hidden deep within the red cliffs of Jordan, Petra is one of the most famous ancient cities in the world, known as the Rose City because of its unique pink sandstone. It was once the capital of the Nabatean kingdom beginning in the 300s BC. Petra reached its peak in the 100s BC thanks to its prime location along a major trade route where caravans carried frankincense, myrrh, and spices. The Nabateans built their city right in the heart of the desert, and through their skill in water management, they created an elaborate system to collect rainwater and water crops, turning Petra into a living oasis amid the barren landscape. But Petra's secrets could not stay hidden forever. In 106 AD, the city was taken over by the Roman Empire. Under Roman control, Petra slowly declined due to changing trade routes and damaging earthquakes. By the time Western explorers stumbled upon it in the 1800s, the city had been empty for centuries. Today, Petra is a UNESCO World Heritage Site and one of the new 7 wonders of the world. Its most famous structure, Al-Khazna, known as the Treasury, is carved right into the rock face, leaving visitors amazed by its stunning beauty. Dorinkyu, the underground city beneath the earth. Beneath the region of Cappadocia in Turkey lies Darinkyu, an ancient underground city of amazing size. Once able to shelter more than 20,000 people, the whole city was carved from soft volcanic rock and goes down multiple levels, reaching as far as 18 stories below ground. Inside Dorinkyu is a complex network of living areas. Churches, stables, kitchens, wineries, water wells, and even schools. The city has air shafts, deep wells, and hidden passageways, all cleverly designed to ensure survival and defense during times of conflict. It is thought that Darinkyu was first built in the 700s BC by the Phrygians, and later expanded by early Christians fleeing persecution. During times of war and invasion, especially between Arab and Byzantine forces, Darinkyu became a safe haven for thousands of people. The city stayed completely forgotten until 1963, when a local resident accidentally broke through a wall in his basement, uncovering a tunnel that led to a huge maze deep underground. This accidental find opened the door to one of Turkey's greatest archaeological wonders, the ruined palace of King John. Amid the famous Sherwood Forest, where Robin Hood is said to have roamed, stands one of England's most mysterious ruins, the Palace of King John. This 800-year-old ruin is now nothing more than a grassy field where sheep graze. Known as King John's Palace, the king himself only stayed there for 9 days, and in reality, it was simply a royal hunting lodge. It is thought that his father, King Henry II, had it built as a getaway after tiring hunts. In the Middle Ages, kings would travel with their queens, nobles, hunting dogs, and whole groups to remote lodges like this for hunting wild boar or deer before returning to rest, much like modern travelers enjoying weekend getaways. By the 1500s, this custom faded. In 1525, the Sherwood Lodge was left empty and fell apart. By the 1700s, maps labeled the site only as the King's House. Today, only 3 lonely walls remain, once part of a great hall that could fit an entire royal group. The mystery lies not only in the palace, but in the man whose name it bears. King John is remembered as one of England's worst rulers. Ruling from 1199 to 1216, he lost nearly all of England's hard-won territories in France, earned the hatred of his nobles, and was forced to sign the Magna Carta before dying of dysentery. No one knows what King John did in Sherwood, or how long he truly stayed. If legend holds any truth, maybe he once crossed paths with Robin Hood in these very woods. The Giants of Ireland. In the 1700s, real giants walked the island of Ireland. They were not legends, but living people whose existence was recorded. These men made their living by touring Europe, becoming attractions in traveling shows where audiences paid just to look up at someone standing 8 feet tall. Cornelius Magrath, born in 1736, died in Dublin in 1760 at the height of 7 feet 7 inches. His skeleton was displayed at Trinity College Dublin in 1902, where Professor D.J. Cunningham noted that Cornelius had been weak, nearly blind, and suffered from weak knees. That same year, Patrick Carter was born. He became one of only 12 people in modern medical history confirmed to have reached 8 feet in height. Patrick died in Bristol in 1806 at the age of 46. When his skeleton was dug up in 1972, scientists confirmed he had indeed been a true giant. Charles Byrne, born in 1761, was another Irish giant standing 7 feet 7 inches tall. In 1782, he arrived in London and quickly became a sensation. However, his health rapidly declined and he died just a year later at only 22. The story of Charles took a grim turn when his body was stolen and sold to Surgeon John Hunter, who displayed it publicly. In the 1900s, scientists examined his skull and found he had a pituitary tumor causing excess growth hormone, a condition now known as gigantism. In 2009, Professor Martha Corbinetz analyzed Charles's DNA and discovered he carried a mutation of the AIP gene. By 2010, 54 modern Irish individuals were found to carry the same mutation. This bloodline still exists today. Tracing it back, scientists found a common ancestor of Ireland's giants lived roughly 2,500 years ago. This raises a haunting question. Was it just a genetic mutation passed down? Or do the origins of these giants go deeper, perhaps tied to old legends of the Nephilim, when giants once ruled the earth? Ireland is filled with stories of other giants. A 7-foot woman from the Isle of Bute, Edmund Malone, said to have been 10 feet tall, who met King Charles II, and towering figures like Patrick Murphy, James Kirkland, and James MacDonald, all as if they were members of a living family portrait of Goliath. Porta Nigra, the Black Gate. Porta Nigra, or the Black Gate, is one of the best preserved Roman gates, standing in the German city of Trier. Built nearly 1,900 years ago from huge sandstone blocks, it was originally part of the city's defenses. When first finished, its stones were pale, but over centuries, they darkened, earning the gate its name. In the 100s AD, when it was built, neither Trier nor Germany existed as we know them today. The gate was one of 4 entrances to the Roman city of Augusta Treverum. The others have long since vanished. In 1804, during his European campaigns, Napoleon Bonaparte visited Trier and was so captivated by Porta Nigra that he ordered it restored to its former glory. Although only partly fixed up, the gate remains mostly an authentic Roman structure. Today, Porta Nigra is one of the very few Roman ruins left in Germany, a reminder of the empire's reach into northern Europe. Ciudad Perdida, Colombia's lost city. Deep in the dense mountains of Colombia lies an ancient city known as Ciudad Perdida, literally, the lost city. Founded around 800 AD, it was once the height of the pre-Columbian Tarona culture. The Tarana people had lived in the area since the early first millennium, at first as scattered communities in the jungle. As their skills and organization advanced, they built larger settlements, of which Ciudad Perdida was their greatest achievement. Perched on a mountainside, the city was home to about 3,000 people. Archaeologists have uncovered more than 200 structures, mostly wooden, spread across 169 terraces connected by stone paths and small plazas. Yet, many aspects of the Tairona culture remain a mystery. This great city was left empty in the 1500s after the arrival of the Spanish, but there is no proof they were the cause. When explorer Gonzalo Fernández de Oviedo arrived in Santa Marta in 1498, it seemed the Tairona had already started pulling back from the city. Magmel, the paradise of the Irish. Magmel is a mythical land in Irish folklore, similar to Greece's Arcadia or Asia's Shambhala. According to legend, Magmel was an island lying somewhere west of Ireland. Though only certain people could reach it, the ancient Irish believed it was real. Magmel was a land without pain, poverty, or death. Anyone who set foot there would live forever, enjoying every earthly pleasure without ever aging. To the people of Iar, Magmel was paradise on earth. The myth says Magmel was ruled by King Tathra of the Fomorians, making it unique as ancient paradises rarely had kings. This has led scholars to wonder, did a real island once exist near Ireland, home to a small group of extraordinary people who inspired the legend? With the rise of Christianity, Magmel shifted from a purely mythical place to a more real island rumored to have been visited by early sailors crossing the Atlantic. The mysterious discovery of Machu Picchu. Almost everyone knows of Machu Picchu in Peru, but few know how it was found. Just over a century ago, it remained a forgotten city, hidden from the modern world. The man who found Machu Picchu was Hiram Bingham, an American explorer born in 1875 in Hawaii. Although his parents were missionaries, Bingham chose a different path. After graduating from Yale, he became fascinated by South American history. In 1900, he married Alfreda Mitchell, heir to the Tiffany fortune, giving him the resources for his adventures. From tracing Simon Bolivar's roots through Venezuela and Colombia to exploring South America's trade networks, Bingham was always in search of the mysterious. In 1911, he set out to find a lost Inca city, rumored to be the last refuge during the Spanish conquest. Bingham traveled to Cusco, crossed the jungle, climbed the Andes, and finally stumbled upon Machu Picchu. The Inca ruins rose before him, overgrown with jungle, draped in vines, covered in moss, and tangled with bamboo. The Machu Picchu we see today has been cleared and preserved. But when Bingham discovered it, it was nameless, traceless, and hidden in the clouds of the highland forest. The giant pyramid of Cholula. The Pyramid of Cholula is the largest pyramid in the world. Today, it lies buried under a hill in Mexico, with a Spanish church perched on top, making it hard to recognize the huge structure beneath. Built more than 2000 years ago, Cholula is bigger than even the Great Pyramid of Giza. Yet, its origins remain an unsolved mystery. Its architecture shows the influence of the Teotihuacan and Olmec cultures, but no one knows exactly who built it or why it was left empty. One theory suggests the Aztecs once used it, but when the Spanish invaded, they buried the structure to protect their heritage. Maybe they knew the Spanish would destroy everything native, and burying the pyramid was the only way to save it for the future. Few realize that the world's largest pyramid lies in Mexico, quietly hidden under a green hill. Ancient bows, the weapon that helped humans conquer the world. A recent study published in Science Advances has reached a shocking conclusion. The first Homo sapiens to arrive in southern France 54,000 years ago brought with them an advanced weapon, the bow and arrow. These deadly weapons were far better than the simple clubs of the Neanderthals who ruled the area at the time. The research is based on hundreds of small arrowheads dug up at the Grotte Mandarin shelter in the Rhine Valley, along with a child's tooth belonging to a modern human. This suggests that when early humans first set foot in Europe, they had superior technology. Just as Europeans later arrived in the Americas with guns, Homo sapiens used bows and arrows to quickly overpower the Neanderthals, pushing them to the edge of extinction. Roman pottery. Souvenirs from the arena. In 1853, archaeologists found a Roman vase in an old tomb in England, decorated with pictures of gladiators locked in combat. Amazingly, this clay container, nearly 2000 years old, was almost perfectly preserved. Carved on the vase are two names, Memnon and Valentinus. For years, it was thought these were the names of slave gladiators, added after the vase was made. A new study reveals the opposite. The names were carved before baking, meaning the vase was custom-made to honor these two fighters. Researchers think it served as an old form of memorabilia, similar to modern UFC merchandise, bearing fighters' names, but made nearly 2 millennia ago in Rome. Etzanoa, the forgotten city of Kansas. Only recently found in Kansas, Etzanoa may once have been a busy metropolis of Native Americans. Its ruins lie along the Walnut River in what is now the modern city of Arkansas City. Researchers estimate that more than 1,000 years ago, around 20,000 people lived here, making Etzanoa the largest known native city in North America. Dr. Donald Blakesley of Wichita State University led the research. He and his team found countless pottery pieces, arrowheads, and other objects buried under private lands. But the most remarkable find was the city itself. The people lived here from about 1450 to the 1700s, moving seasonally and spreading across nearby counties. Sadly, much of the city is now buried under asphalt roads, neighborhoods, and commercial buildings. Arkansas City has been built right on top of the remains of Etzanoa. The tragedy of Berenike. Berenike, a Hellenistic city in ancient Egypt, was destroyed by two disasters, drought and volcanic eruption. In truth, its downfall was inevitable from the moment it was founded. Berenike was established in 275 BC by Ptolemy II, the second king to rule Egypt after Alexander the Great's death. In its early years, the city thrived as a major trade port, importing goods from the southern Red Sea, including war elephants. But Berenike relied completely on the Nile River. Less than a century after its start, climate shifts caused the river's yearly floods to fail. Drought spread, fresh water grew scarce, and crops dried up. The root cause was a volcanic eruption in 209 BC, which greatly reduced summer monsoon rains across Africa. The river dried, and any city dependent on it faced ruin. 2 years later, a rebellion against the Ptolemaic dynasty erupted, throwing Egypt into chaos. Famine struck, the royal family lost control, and Berenike could not survive. It was left empty in silence. The vanished trees of Easter Island. Scientists keep debating what destroyed the old civilization of Easter Island. Was it deforestation that ruined the environment? Or was it the arrival of Europeans with their slave raids that killed off the native people? Some suggest a plague of rats triggered the disaster. The island's true name is Rapa Nui, and its shores are guarded by hundreds of huge stone statues known as moai. The name Easter Island only came after Dutch explorer Jacob Roggeveen arrived on Easter Sunday in 1722. The Rapa Nui culture once thrived, as shown by the statues. There are more than 800 moai scattered across the island, most built between 1400 and 1650, They weigh several tons, with some standing over 10 meters tall. Few know that the Moai have full bodies, not just heads, and many once wore stone hats. A detail science still struggles to explain. Around 1350, the island's population peaked at 4,000 and stayed steady until Europeans arrived. By 1877, only 111 people remained. Rapa Nui stood on the edge of extinction. What happened? Think about this. Today, the island has no trees, but for over 30,000 years, it was covered in palm forests. Archaeological evidence shows that just before Europeans came, every tree had been cut down. The common theory is that the Rapa Nui cut down their forests to move the giant statues, but this lacks proof. It's hard to believe a community so dependent on nature would destroy its own lifeline. Maybe disease killed the trees, or maybe rats brought on Polynesian ships ate the seeds, stopping regrowth. Whatever the cause, the loss of the forest spelled disaster for the island. Vilcabamba, the last sanctuary of the Inca Empire. Deep in the Amazon jungle lies a little-known ancient city called Vilcabamba, the final hope of the Inca Empire. Even when explorer Hiram Bingham found Machu Picchu in 1911, he first mistook it for Vilcabamba, because this city was more famous in legend. When the Spanish invaded Peru in 1532, the Inca Empire fell into chaos. Facing destruction, the last Inca leaders retreated deep into the jungle, setting up Vilcabamba as their final hidden stronghold. The city was founded in 1539 and kept the Inca people going until 1572, when it was suddenly left empty for unknown reasons. Maybe the Spanish never found it, but that did not save it from collapse. It was not until 1964 that American explorer Giza rediscovered the ruins of Vilcabamba. Today, you can still visit this legendary site, but the journey is not easy. The trail to the city winds through the snow-covered Andes and remote rainforest, taking about 12 days on foot, a challenge only for the truly experienced. The reward is that you can also stop to see Machu Picchu along the way. Mura Janjira, the impregnable fortress. Mura Janjira is an old fortress in India, soaked in history and wrapped in mystery. Today, it stands as a popular tourist spot, but in the past, it served as an unyielding shield, protecting local people against attacks from both the Portuguese and the British. Its origins go back to the 1400s, starting as something surprisingly simple. Fishermen who lived in the area, relying on the sea for survival, built a wooden fort on rocky outcrops along the coast to defend themselves against pirates. At the time, piracy was a serious threat, and even this simple wooden structure was enough to scare off attackers. Over the years, the fortress was strengthened, watchtowers rose, stone walls thickened, and hundreds of cannons were set up to rain fire on any would-be attackers. At its peak, Mura Janjira is thought to have held at least 572 cannons, turning it into an island stronghold that was nearly impossible to break into. Time, however, wore down its strength. Today, only 3 cannons remain. Inside the fortress, parts of the royal palace, mosques, noble homes, stables, granaries, and underground tunnels connecting its various structures still survive. Freshwater pools once kept the people alive for generations, preserving life within this mighty fortress. Great Zimbabwe. Deep within Africa lie the ruins of Great Zimbabwe, the once splendid capital of the ancient Zimbabwe kingdom, which thrived from the 1000s to the 1400s. The name Zimbabwe comes from the Shona language meaning houses of stone, perfectly describing what made this place remarkable. Huge stone walls built completely without mortar, some rising over 10 meters high. At its peak, Great Zimbabwe may have housed more than 20,000 people. It was a major trade center dealing in gold, ivory, and other valuable goods with merchants from as far as China and Persia. By the 1400s, the city was mysteriously left empty. Scholars continue to debate the reasons. Climate change, overgrazing, or political unrest may have played a role. When European explorers arrived in the 1800s, they refused to believe that such an impressive city could have been built by native Africans. For decades, racist theories denied the achievements of the ancient Shona. Only when undeniable archaeological proof came to light did the world finally recognize Great Zimbabwe as a masterpiece of African skill, a powerful testament to a rich history long ignored. Elusa, the Byzantine city buried in garbage. The Byzantine Empire, the last piece of the ancient Roman world, lasted for 1,000 years after the Western Roman Empire fell in the 400s. But by 1453, even the Eastern Empire had collapsed. One of the earliest signs of this decline can be traced to the city of Elusa, located in Israel's Negev desert. Archaeologist Guy Barras of the University of Haifa dug up ancient trash piles in Alusa and made a startling discovery. The city's once well-organized garbage collection system suddenly stopped in the 500s. Layers of built-up waste covered 150 years before suddenly ending. This showed the breakdown of infrastructure and public services, a clear sign of a city on the verge of self-destruction. What makes this even more striking is that Alusa's decline happened during a time of peace and prosperity. Under Emperor Justinian, the Byzantine Empire was growing and thriving. Yet internally, political chaos weakened the system. Trash piled up, diseases spread, and the city buried itself under its own neglect. Even in times of peace, a city can destroy itself with its own waste. Mapinguari, the mystery of the Amazon forest. Since the arrival of the Portuguese and Spanish in South America, rumors have persisted of a huge hairy creature hiding in the dense Amazon rainforest. Not just a lone beast, but an entire tribe of them. Scattered accounts describe ape-like beings living in small groups in the most remote corners of the jungle. Yet, because they are so rarely seen, no one can agree on what Mapinguari truly is. It might be a species of giant ape resembling Bigfoot, an unusually hairy tribe of humans, or perhaps a leftover species of ancient primate, thought to be extinct. One of the most famous reports of Mapinguari comes from Colonel Percy Fawcett, the legendary explorer who later vanished while searching for the lost city of Z in his journal. Fawcett wrote that, in 1914, he ran into a group of giant hairy savages. He described them as ape-like, yet they used bows and arrows. This was no mistake. Fawcett was very familiar with the native tribes of the Amazon. The beings he encountered were completely different. Their bodies were covered with thick fur like bears. They spoke no human language and only growled in deep tones. Fawcett and his group barely escaped an attack, saved only when gunfire drove the creatures away. The lost civilization of the Amazon. The mystery of the Amazon is not only tied to Colonel Percy Fawcett's disappearance, but also to the legend of the lost city of Z. It began in 1753 when a group of Portuguese explorers documented a lost city filled with huge treasure. This manuscript, known as Manuscript 512, eventually reached Fawcett in the early 1900s, inspiring his relentless search. World War I interrupted his plans, forcing him to fight in Europe, where he amazingly survived. In 1920, Fawcett ventured into the Brazilian jungle for the first time, but failed, falling ill and losing his pack animals. Refusing to give up, 5 years later, he set out again with his son Jack and friend Raleigh. The three men vanished into the endless green of the rainforest and were never seen again. To this day, the fate of the expedition remains unknown, and the city of Z lives on, only in legend. The Temple of Zeus in Egypt. In Greek mythology, Zeus is the god of gods, lord of the sky, and the thunder-wielding king of Olympus. But his influence was not limited to Greece. Recently, archaeologists found a mysterious temple dedicated to Zeus on Egypt's Sinai Peninsula. This temple was built to honor Zeus Casios, a special version of the god linked to Mount Casios, rather than Olympus. This mountain, located on the border between Syria and Turkey, is tied to the legendary battle between Zeus and the monster Typhon. With his thunderbolts, Zeus defeated Typhon, stopping him from taking over the universe. Even today, Mount Jebel Akra is often hit by storms, supporting the old belief that it is connected to Zeus. The Sinai temple was identified by Egyptian archaeologists, though their work was hard. The structure was almost completely destroyed, its huge pink granite columns shattered, likely by earthquakes. Only pieces of granite and remains of stairways survive as silent witnesses to its past greatness. Koyeto, the forgotten city in the sky. In the little-known country of Eritrea, north of Ethiopia, once stood an ancient city called Koyeto, built on a plateau overlooking the Great Rift Valley at an elevation of more than 2,400 meters. It was almost a city among the clouds. Long before the rise of Ethiopia's Aksumite kingdom, Koyeto had already flourished. Researchers think its people were ancestors of the Aksumites, who appeared around 100 AD and thrived for 6 centuries afterward. Koyeto was once a powerful city center, its influence reaching Sudan and the Arabian Peninsula. The city may have traded with both the Roman and Byzantine empires, though time has erased much. The standing stone pillars and scattered ruins still show a golden era that once existed here. Koyeto lasted as Aksum reached its height, but both cities were left empty around 900 AD, vanishing from history. It was not until the 1800s, when foreign travelers crossed this land, that Koyeto's traces were found again, buried under desert winds and the dust of time. Ouagadougou, the desert town of the Sahara, not far from the legendary city of Timbuktu, amid the empty expanse of the Sahara Desert, once stood an ancient Berber town called Ouagadougou. During the medieval period, it was a key trading hub, where North African merchants rested on their trips across the desert. Here, traders once bought gold from the powerful kings of Ghana and spread goods across the ancient world. Today, the city lies in ruins, at a site known as Tegda, in Mauritania. The builders of Ouagadougou were the Berber people, descendants of North Africa's prehistoric people. They once lived across a huge range from Morocco to Egypt, from the Mediterranean to Niger. Today, the two largest remaining Berber communities are in Algeria and Morocco, where roughly a quarter of Algeria's population still carries this old heritage. Before the Arab conquest of the 600s, they were the earliest settlers of the Sahara, coming before the Greeks, Carthaginians, and Romans. Ouagadougou is just one of many towns swallowed by the desert, cities that once shone brightly amid the desolation of history. The door to Nefertiti's tomb. Inside the burial chamber of Pharaoh, Tutankhamun, archaeologists have uncovered a series of hidden hieroglyphs. This tomb, famously opened in 1922 by legendary archaeologist Howard Carter, had kept these markings unnoticed for decades. These mysterious carvings may hold a secret powerful enough to rewrite Egyptian history. Researchers suspect there may be a hidden doorway within Tutankhamun's tomb, leading to a larger room, possibly the final resting place of Queen Nefertiti. Nefertiti, stepmother of Tutankhamun, was one of Egypt's most powerful queens, yet her tomb has never been found. This is amazing, as she once ruled with an iron hand, surviving even the troubled reign of Pharaoh Akhenaten, a king hated by many. Nicholas Reeves, a former curator at the British Museum, found traces of paint overlapping older images inside the tomb. His study showed that the original artwork showed Tutankhamun burying Nefertiti, later changed to hide the truth. Reeves thinks this proves the tomb was never originally built for Tutankhamun, but rather as an outer room leading to a much larger complex. Many scientists suspect that beyond this wall lies a hidden door leading to Nefertiti's burial chamber, a secret still waiting to be uncovered. Nazca, the Lines of Mystery. In the dry Nazca Desert of southern Peru lies one of archaeology's greatest puzzles. The Nazca Lines, huge drawings, carved right into the earth over 2000 years ago, dating from around 500 BC to 500 AD. There are more than 800 straight lines, 300 geometric shapes, and about 70 figures showing animals and plants, including monkeys, hummingbirds, spiders, and whales. Some lines stretch for over 30 miles. What makes the Nazca lines so mysterious is that their full designs can only be seen from the sky. The ancient Nazca people could not have seen their creations completely from the ground, raising endless questions. How did they make them, and why? Some researchers think they served as tools for studying the stars or religious symbols. Others suggest they were meant to get the attention of gods above. Naturally, theories of alien signals also come up. To this day, the true purpose of the Nazca lines remains an unsolved mystery. The temple of Pharaoh Amenhotep III. In 2017, during the restoration of Amenhotep III's mortuary temple in Luxor, a German archaeology team discovered 66 pieces of statues depicting the goddess Sekhmet. These statues are thought to have been destroyed in an earthquake during the 1300s BC. 5 years later, archaeologists uncovered a pair of Sphinx statues within the same temple. Despite being 3,400 years old, one statue remains almost perfectly preserved, with the pharaoh's face still clearly visible in the limestone. Amenhotep III built this mortuary temple, known as the Temple of Millions of Years, with the hope that his name would live forever. More than 3,000 years later, the structure still inspires awe, a testament to the pharaoh's ambition. Forgotten history in the Syrian desert. In 2009, archaeologist Robert Mason from the Royal Ontario Museum found stone structures dating back an estimated 10,000 years while studying an old monastery. Mason kept digging and found more stone buildings, likely old animal traps from the Neolithic era. Although the area is dry today, thousands of years ago it was lush, a perfect setting for early hunters. The monastery of Deir Musa, where Mason made his find, carries its own mysteries. Built in the 300s, it was left empty after earthquakes and only restored in the 1990s. Mason thinks the monastery may be older than believed, possibly once serving as a Roman water tower watching over the desert near Damascus. The Silk Road, traces of silk and cotton in the desert. Amid the empty desert between Israel and Jordan, archaeologists uncovered silk and cotton pieces dating back 1,300 years. These fabrics are thought to have been brought from India and China via the Silk Road, one of history's greatest trade networks. Stretching from faraway China to the gates of Rome, this route crossed many deadly deserts. Merchants carried rare goods, especially silk, which brought them huge wealth for over 1,500 years. The textiles found in the Arava Desert have designs resembling Indian Ajanta cave paintings dating to the 500s. They were likely on their way to ancient Nubia in southern Egypt when they were lost to the sands. The ancient Edomite temple. During a military training exercise in Israel, a drone accidentally captured images of an ancient structure over 2,200 years old. It turned out to be an old temple featuring a rare surviving incense altar. Researchers think the site was built by the Edomites, a mysterious people mentioned in the Bible. They were not very different from the Israelites, as both lived in the Holy Land for centuries. However, the Edomite kingdom was completely destroyed when the Babylonians attacked in the 500s BC. The few survivors settled in the southern Judean hills, taking new names as Idumeans, before eventually blending into the Jewish population. Because their numbers were so small, few Edomite temples or palaces remain. Archaeologists say finds like this, one can be counted on one hand, an extraordinary discovery made possible by a drone survey. The altar is especially striking, decorated with the image of a bull, likely representing a mysterious god once worshipped by the Edomites before their change to Judaism. It may have been used in rituals now lost to history, possibly even blood sacrifices. Nalanda Gadi. Nalanda Gadash is regarded as one of Sri Lanka's most amazing archaeological sites. Yet almost no tourists visit it, because it lies deep within the hot, humid jungle. This ancient temple is wrapped in mystery. No one knows who built it, why such a remote spot was chosen, or why it was left empty. Archaeologists think it was built between the 600s and 1000s. During a time when Indian kings sought to control Sri Lanka. Blending Hindu and Buddhist architecture, Nalanda Gadaj likely reflects a cultural mix of Tamil influences from India and Sinhalese traditions from Sri Lanka. The temple stayed hidden by the jungle until 1893, when archaeologist H.C.P. Bell found it near rice fields amid low hills and isolated villages. Bell planned to dig up and restore the site, but the project was never finished. Nalanda Gadash fell back into obscurity until the 1980s, when it was almost flooded. To save the temple, it had to be taken apart and rebuilt on a protective wall. Though saved, its true history remains a puzzle. Trolen, the Bern capital, in East Java, Indonesia. There once stood an ancient city named Trohalan, believed to have been the capital of the powerful Majapahit Empire during the 1300s and 1400s. However, after a rival invasion launched by King Girindravardhana, the city was burned and slowly forgotten. Trolen was only rediscovered in the 1800s by Sir Thomas Stamford Raffles, the British colonial governor of Java. Since then, digs have uncovered fascinating remains. Among the highlights is Candi Tychus, a ritual bathing pool once infested with plague-bearing rats. Another is the towering Bajang Ratu Gate, standing over 14 meters tall, looking like a portal to another world, matching any ancient gateway elsewhere. The ruins of Trolan are so extensive that researchers think most of the city is still buried. Because the area has endured multiple eruptions from Mount Kelad, its most important remains may lie deep under layers of mud and ash. Nearby, the Brantas River has repeatedly flooded over the centuries, washing away whole sections of the lost capital. Strange creatures. Life in the hottest place on Earth. Scientists have found a new animal species living in one of the planet's harshest environments, the Lut Desert of Iran. This newly found arthropod looks like a shrimp, but survives in the scorching heat of the region. Dr. Hussain Rajay stated that finding such a creature in an environment this dry and hot is groundbreaking. It was found in a seasonal lake, an oasis that appears only during the rainy season and vanishes entirely during droughts. This tiny crustacean has adapted in an amazing way. It can survive for decades buried in dry mud, lying dormant until the rain returns to fill the lake again. This ability lets it live in one of Earth's most extreme environments, the city of the Snake Kings. In the ancient city of Holmar, a powerful Maya metropolis, archaeologists recently unearthed two mysterious tombs. The city reached its peak between 650 and 700 AD, It's located over 250 miles north of modern Guatemala City, deep in the dense jungle. The first tomb was found inside a pyramid, containing the remains of a middle-aged person with jade inlaid teeth. Beside the body lay a human shin bone carved with symbols, possibly from a relative or a war captive. Whoever was buried here clearly held high status, although their identity remains unknown. The second tomb, also inside a pyramid, held many jade offerings and a necklace thought to be a war trophy. Researchers suggest the necklace once belonged to a king from another city. The snake designs carved into the artifact show it belonged to one of the mysterious snake kings of the Maya, a dynasty that once controlled much of the Maya world before its empire fell. At its height, Homel was covered with pyramids, tiered temples, and large plazas where people gathered for ceremonies and sacred rituals. The mysterious city in Death Valley. Beneath the white salt flats of Death Valley, there may lie a hidden underground city. This is one of the most extreme regions on Earth, where temperatures often exceed 120 degrees Fahrenheit. Water is scarce and plants are few. Those who get lost here face almost certain death. Yet, the Timbisha people tell legends of an underground city called Shinowaf, hidden within a network of tunnels beneath Death Valley. To reach it, one must endure a dangerous journey into the land of spirits, where thousands of the dead live happily in a shining city. In 1931, Dr. F. Bruce Russell and his friend Daniel Bona claimed to have discovered a maze of tunnels while digging a well in the area. They reported finding the ruins of an underground city, but never managed to find the entrance again. Laughed at, they spent the rest of their lives searching in vain. To this day, no one has found the doorway leading to the ruins of Shinwaf. The underground tunnels of Palsik. Palsik, a city in the Czech Republic, holds one of the largest underground tunnel networks in Europe. This system was first dug in the 1200s and kept expanding for 600 years, finally ending in the 1800s. Originally, the tunnels were made as storage cellars. Over time, they were also used to carry water and manage waste. These chambers even played a part in the birth of the famous Pilsner beer. Since the 1200s, people carved out 3 levels of underground cellars beneath their homes to store food, tools, and beer. Slowly, the tunnels were connected, forming a huge network. By the 1800s, Palzaka had 12 miles of underground passages running beneath the city. When the digging stopped, the tunnels were left empty, many sections collapsing with time. Today, parts of the network are open to visitors, where medieval objects still rest deep below the surface. The Holy Grail Crypt. Amateur archaeologist Pari John Bauer is convinced that a secret crypt lies deep beneath West London, safeguarding the legendary Holy Grail, the cup from which Jesus drank at the Last Supper. The Grail has been the most sought-after relic in Christian history for 2000 years. Barry John thinks that its discovery would be the greatest archaeological breakthrough of all time. For years, he followed clues of the Grail through its links to the Knights Templar. He argues that many knights trained secretly at a base in England, now known as Hounslow Heath, before leaving for the Holy Land. There they built a hidden crypt to hide sacred objects brought back from the Crusades, as their well-known strongholds in Jerusalem and France were no longer safe. Barry John suspects the entrance to the crypt was purposely hidden near the artificial river, Duke of Northumberland's River. Although no proof has yet been found, he remains determined, hoping one day to uncover the Holy Grail. The Lost Lords of the Sahara. The Sahara, the largest hot desert on Earth, is a harsh land. Yet, humans have lived in it since ancient times. Among the oldest of its people are the Tuareg, who still roam the desert today, traveling by camel across the sands. The name Tuareg may come from the city of Targa in southern Libya, though the exact time of their settlement in the Sahara is unknown. The Greek historian Herodotus wrote in the 400s BC about a Libyan tribe called the Garamantes, thought to be the ancestors of the modern Tuareg. According to Tuareg legend, their origins go back to Queen Tinhinan in the 300s. Arguments remain over when they took over the desert, and some traditions even claim they founded the city of Timbuktu in the 1000s. Kronosaurus, the giant sea monster of the Mesozoic. Kronosaurus was an ancient pliosaur that ruled the seas of Australia during the Mesozoic era. With 4 limbs turned into powerful flippers, it flew through water, hunting large fish, squid, and other ocean reptiles. This predator measured up to 9 meters in length, with a huge skull over 2.5 meters long. Its jaws were wide enough to swallow a human whole, and its cone-shaped teeth could crush hard shells and pierce the thick hides of huge creatures. Fossils of Kronosaurus have mainly been found in Australia, dating back 120 to 90 million years. Luckily, this monster no longer swims the oceans. Selawig, the ancient forest of King Arthur. Before Camelot, Welsh legends spoke of a place where King Arthur once ruled, Selawig, also known as Kelavik, described in the 1000 Tale Coolidge and Olwen. This was the first time the name Arthur appeared in literature, long before Geoffrey of Monmouth's famous works. In the original story, Arthur was not the Grand King of Camelot, but a lord ruling over a forested land called Selawig, meaning edge of the forest. Its true location remains unknown, but it is mentioned repeatedly in medieval manuscripts and even appears in Welsh records as late as the 1800s. Was Arthur real? If Selawig existed, he may have been a simple chieftain, living among the mountains and woods of Cornwall rather than the shining king wielding Excalibur. The fortress of Chittagong, located in Rajasthan, India. Chittagong Fort is the largest military fort in the country and one of the most impressive in the world. Built in the 600s under the Maurya dynasty, it represents centuries of both greatness and tragedy, covering over 700 acres. The fort includes palaces, temples, gates, watchtowers, and a large reservoir. In the year 734, Rajput ruler Bapa Ruel took over the fortress, making it the capital of the Muir kingdom. For centuries, it stood as Muir's political and cultural heart. Chittagong was attacked 3 times in history. The first siege came in 1303 by Alauddin Khalji, attracted by the beauty of Queen Padmini. The second happened in 1535 when Bahadur Shah of Gujarat attacked. The third and final siege occurred in 1567, launched by the Mughal Empire under Akbar. During all 3 sieges, the defenders chose to perform Jahar, a mass self-sacrifice by women and children to avoid capture. Thousands died, turning Chittagong into an eternal symbol of Rajput courage, honor, and sacrifice. Today, Chittagong is a UNESCO World Heritage Site, drawing visitors to its Victory Tower, Queen Padmini's palace, and the Gomak Reservoir that once kept an entire kingdom alive. Inomolocaris, the strange predator of the Cambrian. 530 million years ago, the oceans were filled with predators unlike anything seen today. Among them, Anomalocaris, meaning strange shrimp, stood out as the top hunter of the early seas. Fossils of Anomalocaris have been found worldwide, from Canada to China and even Greenland. This ancient creature grew up to 2 meters long, making it a terror to all smaller sea life of its time. It had stalk-mounted eyes with thousands of lenses, giving it amazing vision. It swam quickly by bending its body and used spiny limbs to grab prey, pushing it into a circular mouth. The mouth consisted of 32 overlapping plates, but scientists still debate whether they were used for crushing or handling prey in another way. Either way, its speed, eagle-like vision, and fierceness made Anomalocaris the nightmare of the Cambrian seas. The Arborlow Stone Circle. The Arborlow Stone Circle is exactly what its name suggests, an old ring of stones. Officially, it is a Neolithic henge, a circular earthwork surrounded by a ditch built by prehistoric people. Located in the Peak District of Derbyshire, England, this site is about 4,000 years old. At first, builders raised an earthen bank and ditch. Centuries later, they added the stone circle. It stayed in use until the Bronze Age, before being left empty and forgotten. Despite thousands of years of weather, Arborlow has not disappeared. Today, around 50 huge limestone blocks still form an oval ring, though only one stone remains upright, leaning dangerously as if about to fall. The others have fallen over time. When whole, this was once a huge stone complex matching Stonehenge. Though the stones are smaller, they are more numerous, and the building was just as advanced. Archaeologists also found 2 main entrances, stone paths leading into the circle's center. Here, under the open sky, ancient people may have performed mysterious rituals, looking at the stars of a clear night. Menhir de Chamdelant rises from a cornfield in Brittany, France. It is one of the largest standing stones in the world, and among France's most carefully preserved prehistoric monuments. A menhir is a single standing stone common during the Bronze Age, found across Western Europe from France to Ireland. The word menhir comes from Old Breton, meaning long stone. Archaeologists think menhirs often marked the entrance to burial grounds, different from stone circles, which were far more complex. Menhir de Chamdelant is the largest of them all, standing over 30 feet high, weighing nearly 100 tons, and made entirely of pink granite. Local legends say the stone burst from the ground to stop a bloody battle between two brothers. Another tale claims it fell from the sky, while a third warns that the day the stone falls will mark the end of the world. The Elgem Amphitheater. The Elgem Amphitheater is one of the most important Roman structures in North Africa, modeled after Rome's Colosseum, though not an exact copy. It served the same purposes as other Roman arenas: gladiator fights, public speeches, theater, and mass entertainment. It once held up to 35,000 people. Today, it stands as a crumbling shell amid the small village of Elgem, Tunisia. Yet, its greatness still amazes all who see it. Built in the 200s, the amphitheater had no foundations and was put together entirely from huge stone blocks, making it one of the earliest foundationless structures in North Africa during the last days of the Roman Empire. UNESCO lists it among the greatest amphitheaters ever built. Though much of it has fallen, key parts remain, including the stage platform, the fighting arena, and the underground halls where backstage work took place. While Elgem is now a quiet village, it was once the busy Roman city of Giza. The current amphitheater was the third built there, as the two earlier ones had fallen. During the Middle Ages, it served as a fortress where villagers took shelter during Vandal raids in 430 and the Arab conquest in 647. In the 1700s and 1800s, its remaining stones were used to make Despite all this, Elgem still stands tall, a timeless witness to human history. If you enjoyed these mysterious stories, share your thoughts below, and don't forget to subscribe so you won't miss our next explorations.